What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Adventure Outpost. In today's adventure, we are ranking all of April, everything that we saw in theaters and on streaming for the month of April. We watched 10 new movies that came out for the month of April, and we are going to rank them all here today. And we are going to start with the worst of the worst, the absolute worst movie that we saw for April. Hell, it might be a runner-up for one of the worst movies I've ever seen. It easily could find a spot in my top 100 worst movies of all time, and that is Judd Apatow's The Bubble. This movie is just a painful exercise in torture. Somebody really needs to hire a new editor for Judd Apatow because he needs to learn that not every comedy that you make needs to be pushing 2 hours. This movie clocks in at about 2 hours, which is absolutely ridiculous for a comedy movie. There are very few comedy movies that I think ever have needed to push the 2 hour mark. Like maybe Knocked Up. I don't think the 40-Year-Old Virgin was over 2 hours. It might have been right around there, but even that might have been pushing it. But like he just like his movie Funny People, way too long. It was like 2 hours and 15 minutes. I think it was like comedy does not need to be a full-length drama or a full-length Marvel movie or a full-length whatever have you. Comedies are golden in the 90-minute to 100 and maybe 5 minutes, I'll give you. Like 90 to 105, that's the sweet spot that you get for comedy. And this movie, clocking in at 2 hours, throws in every horrible, stupid, cliche, nonsensical thing about modern society and COVID that you can imagine. Remember all the times I talked about how I did not want them to make COVID movies because of how dumb and dated they would be immediately? This was the reason why. It was because of dumbass movies like this where they try to make a comedy about making a movie during COVID. It is fucking stupid. It is no fun whatsoever. Like everything is just so painfully dull. I don't think I laughed once the entire movie. Everything was just such tired, joking cliches. It just was zero fun. And it's a shame because there's so much good talent in this movie. The actors and actresses are absolutely wasted in this, from Duchovny to Karen Gillan to Leslie Mann to Keegan-Michael Key, Pedro Pascal. Everyone in this movie is just fucking wasted, and it is a shame. It is easily one of the worst movies ever made, and it is a perfect encapsulation of the Netflix model of just put out crap and content for content's sake. It's movies like this where you can look at and see how terrible cinema is becoming with this content era. Dropping in next, simply because it is a quick 90-minute torture device, is the movie Morbius. Now, this movie is probably just as bad as The Bubble, but it gets the higher spot simply because it's only a 90-minute movie. It flies through that absolute unsaid. This is a movie that needed to be longer, that needed an actual storyline in there. This is just a collection of images and stuff that happens to a vampire, and then the credits roll. It's not a movie, it's just a collection of scenes. It's so disjointed and fumbles the goalpost every time. It never knows what it wants to be. It's all over the place. It so feels like a mid-2000s superhero movie. Like, I didn't even think you were allowed to make superhero movies like this anymore. Like, this is the movie that I can now point to anytime I tell everybody we need to stop making so many Marvel and superhero movies. Like, it needs to stop, and this is why. Because you get movies like this that slip through the cracks. Even like all the good Marvel movies are very cookie cutter, to have to deal with all those. But then to get something like this just like an insult to our intelligence. There are scenes missing. There are setups that need to be scheduled in the beginning of the movie that there's payoffs later on, but there's no setup to. It's a movie. It's almost like it's made by a group of people that have never made a movie before in their life. It seems like it was made by a committee. Not like a bunch of people that wanted to make art. It was just like, it just was made in a lab, and they just put some ingredients together because they were a bunch of corporate execs who were like, hey, if we put a Marvel property, and then we put a vampire, and then we put Jared Leto, and then we put a brother of his that's also having this ailment, we can create a movie. And it's like, no, you can't. You guys fucking suck at this. It's brutal. It's brutal. We're never gonna get another one. I hope. Thank God. Sony's Marvel universe is really not off to the races. Like anything that actual Marvel isn't helping them with, they just bomb constantly. Both the Venoms are terrible. This is terrible. I'm sure Kraven the Hunter is gonna be terrible. Whatever that other new one they just started doing with Dakota Johnson's gonna be terrible. I just have zero faith in their ability to pull anything off. Dropping in at number 8 is the Mark Wahlberg Jesus movie, Father Stew. This is another movie. It has no idea what it wants to be. It's two halves of two different movies just sandwiched together, and it wants to make you feel something where it's like at the midpoint reversal, we're going to switch to a completely different type of movie. And it's like, no, that doesn't flow or work at all. And it sucks because it's not a terrible movie. I gave it a 2-star review on Letterboxd. It's a movie that with a few changes could have got up to a 3-star. I mean, that's a movie that probably never would have got higher than a 3-star for me, but at least there was a movie in there that at least would have been decent and good. This wasn't it. The first half of the movie is not terrible. It's pretty entertaining. You're following Mark Wahlberg as he's just this, scumbag dude who just lives life. He's selfish, doesn't really care about anybody else. He's just trying to make a name for himself. And then halfway through the movie, he gets into an accident that has him reevaluating his faith, and he begins his journey to become a priest. And while he's doing that, then suddenly he finds out he has a degenerative disease. It's going to have him lose all ability below his neck to move or do anything. And it follows his struggle to still become a priest despite that. It's fine, but it's just weird that it's two halves of that movie. Like, if the movie is that, him trying to become a priest despite his issues and all that stuff, then the first hour of the movie shouldn't be him being the douchebag dude. Like, that accident where he has to reevaluate his faith and everything, that's your fucking inciting incident. Like, that's first 10 minutes of the movie right there. The beginning of the movie goes on for way too fucking long. The beginning shouldn't be the first half of the movie. It should be the first act of the movie, and then there's the rest. But that whole becoming a priest thing and everything doesn't happen until the last 45 minutes of the movie, and then it's just scrambling, and it slows down to an absolute halt because even though they're just flying through scenes, you're not really settling with anything. It's just all over the place. It's a movie that needed another go in the editing room. It needed a better draft. It needed to realize that no, your fucking midpoint reversal is actually your inciting incident, and you need to give a whole nother run at that movie. Number 7 is hopefully the final installment of the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, and that is Fantastic Beasts 3, The Secrets of Dumbledore. This makes it this high over the other 3 simply because if you put a gun to my head and was like, which one of these would you want? Do you have to sit through again? I would pick this one simply because at least it's like visually entertaining and it moves, but make no mistake about it, I disliked this movie a lot. It got 2 stars for me simply because Jude Law is really good as Dumbledore. And I think Eddie Redmayne is solid as Newt for like the type of character that Newt is supposed to be. And then it got its 2nd star simply for the only good scene in the movie. The only scene that I actually had a smile on my face for and was like, this is a good movie, is the scene where Newt has to break his brother out of jail and he's got to do the whole pincer thing with those like creatures in there. That's where the movie excels. It blows my mind that they were like, we don't know what we want this to be. Do we want it to be Newt finding fantastic beasts or Newt getting sucked into this war between the 2 gay lovers of Grindelwald and Dumbledore? And the fact that they chose that route sucks. Because the best part of any of the 3 Fantastic Beasts movies has always been when Newt is just searching for magical creatures and he's just doing a lot of silly shit with magical creatures. Like, that should have been the movie. I don't care about any of the stuff with Dumbledore and Grindelwald and the magical war and your stupid political plot where you listen to a fucking creature to pick who you're gonna like lead the wizard. It's so nonsensical, and everything J.K. Rowling has done with this like prequel series, it just feels like it just continuously unravels the lore that you set up in Harry Potter. Like, it's not adding to anything, you're just worsening it. And it's just, it doesn't matter how good Jude Law is in the role, doesn't matter how good Mads Mikkelsen is, or anything. And also, like, Mads Mikkelsen, everyone keeps saying he was better than Johnny Depp, but it's like, he was so boring in the movie. He didn't do anything. He just, like, stood there and just, like, it's like, yeah, he's a good actor, so, like, obviously he could sell it, but, like, his character doesn't do fucking dick the entire movie. Like, at least Johnny Depp was, like, does this weird Johnny Depp thing where he's like, I want to look like an albino, I've got, like, 2 different eye colors. Like, at least he always shoots for the fences and does something insanely bizarre. Like, this was just so forgettable because it's just so run-of-the-mill. Like, he was just so prototypical stock villain in this movie that I'm surprised that people enjoy this movie as much as they do. The fact that they're just like, well, it was better than Crimes of Grindelwald. It's like, yeah, the dump I took this morning was better than Crimes of Grindelwald, but, like, it doesn't make this movie any good. Like, this movie's a turd also. It's torturous. It's way too long. All these movies these days trying to justify their bloated runtimes is ridiculous. You could have shaved 20 minutes off this movie and not lost a goddamn thing. All these movies need to stop doing this shit. You're not Marvel. Even Marvel needs to stop doing this shit. Not every movie needs to be 2 hours and 30 minutes. It's infuriating. Stop doing it. But yeah, Fantastic Beasts, huge disappointment. I really hope that, especially since this movie is not doing very well at the box office, I really hope that this puts a halt to the 4th and 5th installment and we simply say goodbye to the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, unless you want to go back to the drawing board and find some new thing to do in the world. That would be okay, but only if you get somebody to write it that's not J.K. Rowling, because she could write those books, she cannot write screenplays. Number 6 is the heavy metal comedy Metal Lords. A story of 2 kids in high school obsessed with heavy metal who decide that they want to play at a battle of the bands to show everyone how fucking cool they are. It's fine. I gave it 2 stars on Letterboxd. It has its moments, but it's pretty fucking stupid. It's one of those movies that's just, like, really dependent on your love for heavy metal. I'm a huge heavy metal guy fan, so obviously I got, some mileage out of this more than most other people would. It's a pretty dumb movie. I thought the performances were pretty good. At least from the kid from It and Knives Out. The other kid kind of got on my nerves a little bit with how, like, annoying and dumb and selfish he is throughout the movie. He just kind of irked me the wrong way, so he was kind of annoying to watch through. But getting the heavy metal, like, it's sad when, like, the heavy metal soundtrack that they put throughout the movie is more entertaining than the actual movie. So never really a good sign. But it does have one really good cameo scene with a few heavy metal legends that did put a smile on my face. I thought it was pretty funny. And then there is a short cameo from Joe Manganiello, I want to say. I don't know. I probably pronounced that completely wrong. In the movie, that he is also pretty funny. So it has some moments. It's not one of those movies where you're sitting there just like, fucking God, I wish this movie was over. But it's not entirely one of those movies that you'd ever be like, let me watch that again. It's simply a one and done. At number 5 is the animated movie The Bad Guys, the movie that furries are adopting everywhere. It's fine. It's a good movie. It's solid. It's like a low-rent Zootopia, which I guess isn't the worst thing. I mean, if you're going to copy something, you might as well go for Zootopia. But you're following a bunch of anthropomorphic animals as they are criminals and decide that one of them in the group, the big bad wolf, the leader of the gang, decides maybe he doesn't want to be such a bad guy anymore. Maybe now he likes the attention that he can get from being a good guy. And so they try to reform and find their ways to be good guys, and along the way they end up getting screwed by somebody who ends up to be a really bad guy, and they must save the day. It's a kid's movie. It's what you expect from a kid's movie. It's not one of those ones that's going to break the bank in terms of emotional quality like Pixar, but it's not one of those ones where you're going to be sitting there wishing you were dead because it's so fucking brutal to sit through. It's somewhere right there in the middle. It's a fine time. It's a movie that you'll have seen. It's a movie you'll forget in about a week or two, but it's something that you will enjoy while you're in there with your kids or whoever, nonetheless. The animation is probably the best part about the movie. I think the animation style that they did in it was really interesting and vibrant and fun. And then the voices are pretty good too. You got like Sam Rockwell in there, Aquafina, Zazie Beetz. There's some decent people in there that help elevate the material past what it could have been. It could have really been the dregs, but they help elevate it to about the mid-tier animated movie line. Dropping in at number 4 is the movie Sonic the Hedgehog 2. It makes it to number 4 simply because all the other stuff has not really been any good. But Sonic the Hedgehog 2 isn't a movie that I was particularly entertained by or enjoyed that much. I did give it 3 stars in my Letterboxd review. It is a fine movie, but it's another movie to me that was still way too long at 100, and I think it was like an hour and 52 minutes. Still way too long. There was times by like the second half of that movie that I was like, I just want this to be over. It definitely, I did not enjoy it as much as the first one. I know I am the minority in that group. A lot of people seem to have think that this is a double downing of Sonic and this is one of the best video game movies of all the time. And that's fair, to each their own. But for me, this one just didn't hit the mark for me. It just got a little too tiring in its excess of just like, all right, yeah, we get it, Sonic. Like, oh yeah, we get it, Dr. Robotnik. I just think the references are very dated already. The characters just became very trite and annoying as time went on. Like, I groaned audibly at the end when, spoiler alert, Dr. Robotnik dies. And as he falls down, he just goes, "Later, haters." It's like, oh my God, I fucking hate this movie. It's just really annoying dialogue like that gets me. Also, all the stuff with the human characters, it's just zero reason for it. It's just weird too that they were like, they go through all that and then they end up going through the ring to Hawaii where the human characters are. And then, of course, like the Emerald just ends up being off the coast of Hawaii. It's like, oh yeah, that'll never happen. What a plot convenience that was. It is what it is. I mean, if you like the first one, chances are you're going to like this one. I was fine with the first one. I thought it was okay. I thought it was a good attempt at doing a Sonic movie. This one where they're going like way deep on the lore and bringing everything in just didn't really do it for me. It's one of those movies that is just like, I don't know. Not for me. I get kids will love it. Kids will eat that shit up. Good for them. If you're a big Sonic fan and you enjoyed it, good for you too. Happy for you. I simply, however, am not one of those people, and I am not waiting for a Sonic the 3 at any point. It just wasn't one for my cup of tea, but it does hit this high simply because everything else we just talked about was not very good. Dropping in at number 3 is the So Bad It's Good Ambulance, directed by Michael Bay and starring Jake Gyllenhaal and Yaya. I'm not going to even pretend to pronounce his last name because I don't want to do it horribly. Because it's a mouthful, and I don't want to disrespect this man because he is a badass. It's a very entertaining movie. It's the action scenes are super fucking entertaining. All the actors in it really give it their all that help elevate the quality of the movie, especially the 3 main stars, Jake Gyllenhaal, Yaya, and I think Eliza Gonzalez, I think is the woman, the third lead. It's super entertaining. It is dumb as fuck, though. If you even stop to think about anything that's happening in the movie at any point in time, it's going to completely unravel. And you're going to be like, this movie makes zero fucking sense. And it does. Plot-wise, it makes zero fucking sense. But you're not there for plot. You're there for shit to blow up. You're there for loud noises. You're there for some in-your-face entertainment. And this movie definitely hits you with some in-the-face entertainment. So it's super entertaining. It's another movie that is way too fucking long. There is no reason for this movie to be as long as Fantastic Beasts. As absolutely absurd. This movie clocks in at like 2 hours and 13 minutes. It's fucking baloney. You could have shaved, this is another movie, you could have shaved 20 to 25 minutes off this movie and lost absolutely nothing. It is absurd. It's way too long. This is another movie too that needed another run in the editing room. I feel like movies today have no idea how to structure their movies anymore, because this movie opens up with Yaya reminiscing as a kid with Jake Gyllenhaal and them as kids, and then it shows him as an adult and he's trying to get on the phone with insurance to get his insurance covered for his wife's operation that she needs, and they're destitute and all this money. But then we cut and they're not even the main characters. Like the girl, Eliza Gonzalez, in the ambulance that has to deal with them, she's the main character. Because the movie ends with her having the cathartic moment where she finally learns to care for the people that she's transporting all the time in this ambulance and not be so cold and removed from the world that she inhabits. And the movie ends with her going and visiting the same girl that she saved, the first scene that we see her in. But that scene where we see her save that girl isn't until like 15, 20 minutes into the movie, where that should be the first scene of the movie. She is the through line here. These two dudes might propel the action, but she is our cathartic release in this movie. So it makes zero sense to me why she gets the finishing and the cathartic release, but we don't meet her until like 20 minutes into the movie. It's one of those things where it's like people have forgotten the ability to structure movies. So this movie needed to be shaved off by like 20 minutes of action, and then you need to move around those scenes where she opens up the movie, and then you cut to Yaya doing all that stuff, because then they propel the action into having this woman have her cathartic release. But now we're down to our top two, and these are the two movies that I would actually consider fucking really good movies. These are the only two movies that I would probably actually want to rewatch out of everything we've seen for the month of April. Even for the month of 2022, the year of 2022, it has not been very good for movies so far. We have had maybe, with the two movies from April, we have had 4 movies that are probably worth rewatching, and 4 movies that you could actually consider classics that would be worth revisiting. 2 of them came in March, which was The Batman and Everything Everywhere All at Once. And now we finally got 2 more here for the month of April. And we started off now with our number 2 pick, and that is The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, starring our boy, Nicolas Cage. This is a movie that easily could have went either way. It was a movie where it was like, there's no middle ground. This movie's either going to blow its load and be way too dumb and be really stupid and fall in the line of just being an absolute torture to get through with really dumb references, or it's going to be really fucking great and it's going to hit that line of towing cheap jokes with good emotionality and heartfelt moments and really toe the line. And it was able to do that. I was pleasantly surprised that this movie fell onto the line of being a very entertaining movie. I thought it was just going to be like a cheap Nicolas Cage fest where there'd be some moments to laugh at, but never did I think that this movie would have any actual substance to it. I did not expect the emotionality of this movie, the heartfelt moments. And it was an inspired choice to have them center this movie around Nick Cage learning the value of family and not being such a selfish actor anymore. That was a funny bit to really put in there that actually had a really nice emotional core to it by the end of the movie. The movie is a super amount of fun. All the Nick Cage references and everything are great in it, but it's not even a movie that, like, if you're not a big Nick Cage fan, you can still enjoy this movie. It's not like it just bangs you over the head with reference after reference after reference after reference that you need to have seen his entire filmography to enjoy this movie. You simply need to be a fan of the actor himself, and you will get a lot of enjoyment out of this movie. Him and Pedro Pascal's buddy duo is so entertaining. It's what makes this movie work on all levels. Pedro Pascal is an absolute legend. Put him in everything. They work so well together. There are so many great funny scenes in this movie, and any movie that references Paddington 2 is already aces in my book, because that is one of the best movies ever made. So if you're a fan of Nick Cage, if you like fun action comedies, this is a great movie to check out. It is insanely entertaining. I gave it 4 stars on Letterboxd, and it is easily one of my favorite movies of the year so far. But that can only be one, and anybody who likes action will be happy to see that number 1 is The Northmen. What a fucking movie this was. An absolute psychedelic trip through Viking culture. It is a fucking insanely entertaining movie. It is dark, it is violent, it is gritty, it is fun, it is freaking exciting. It keeps you on the edge of your fucking seat. It is Hamlet and the Lion King all rolled into one. It is one fiery spectacle tale of vengeance. The cinematography is some of the best I have seen in a long time. It is fucking beautiful to look at. It is a gorgeous fucking feast of visual treat. It is so fucking good. The performances are phenomenal. Everything about this movie is phenomenal. It's easily my favorite Robert Eggers movie, which isn't really saying much. I've only ever seen The Lighthouse besides this one. I haven't gotten to see The Witch yet. But this, I can easily tell that this takes the cake. It is his most mainstream accessible movie too. It definitely has a lot still of his visual style of never really knowing what is a hallucination or what is real life at certain times. But this is easily his most palatable movie to watch, his most easily digestible movie for mainstream audiences. I feel like there's a lot of mileage that a lot of people will get out of this movie, and especially with how big Viking culture is right now, with The Last Kingdom, with Assassin's Creed Valhalla, with God of War, with all that stuff. There has never been a better time for a good Viking epic. So everyone needs to get their asses out and see that movie. So we get more original movies. We need more stuff like this that have art house directors creating art and less of the mainstream fucking cog of superhero movies and mindless blockbuster action. You know, we're never going to get them if you people don't go and see them. And it's not starting out good, because even this weekend, the past weekend, the Northmen and Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, they did not open well. Not a lot of people went and saw them. And it's because you guys are all just sitting around waiting, jerking yourselves off for the next Marvel movie. And that's fine. You can see the next Marvel movie. I don't want those to go anywhere. I know everybody loves them. I'm fine with people loving them. But you need to be able to see the other ones too. We need to push this perfect encapsulation of the best of both worlds, where we can get your big blockbuster action superhero movies, and we can also get these visual sumptuous treats of mid-level cinema that can be combined together to create a healthy organism called the movie theater. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. And that's our list for the month of April. Some solid movies. It definitely felt better than March, because besides the Batman and Turning Red and Everything Everywhere, most of March was an absolute dredge. So we definitely got a little bit better here in April. Some more, movies that weren't as brutal to sit through, but still not great. May does not look any better, because with the exception of Doctor Strange and Top Gun, everything else in May looks like the absolute fucking pits. So May is going to be very interesting. But check back here later in the week when I drop my most anticipated for the month of May in theaters and in streaming. And until next time, you have been you, I have been me, and adventure on.